Hello, everyone, and I just wanted to start by saying thank you for joining us for today's webinar. I'm excited to have you here, and with that, let's go ahead and get started. So the title of today's webinar is the Schematic Challenge. So we're going to be taking a look at SOLIDWORKS Electrical 2020 and how that compares to traditional CAD design tools for electrical design. Just to start off, I want to start off with introductions. My name is Thomas Smith, and I am a technical manager with SOLIDWORKS focused on our electrical products. So that would be SOLIDWORKS Electrical Schematic, our electrical 3D offering, as well as our PCB tools. And I'm also very versed in our integration into our PDM offerings as well. I support our Central and West territories of North America and am located essentially home-based out of Denver, Colorado. I have a wide range of background within the industry. I started off as a controls designer in industry out of Wichita, Kansas. There, I began working with traditional CAD design tools all the way up through some more purpose-built tools. And then outside of that, I just have been in the consulting and design industry for electrical for about 12 years. This is my first year with SOLIDWORKS, and it's been great and I continue to look forward to many more exciting things to come. So with that, let's get into the reason why we're here today. And I wanted to start off by posing a question. And it's really what, this whole webinar is centered around. And that is, are intelligent schematic capture programs faster than our generic traditional CAD systems? And if that is true, exactly how much faster, are we talking about? Is this, something worth exploring more for you and your organization? And so let's take a look at that. Now, one thing I wanted to start with is talking about the history of intelligent systems. And, let's begin by taking a look at some examples of how automation through the avenue of technology, has made us more productive. I think a easy place to start is if we look at the progression, where we've come from the typewriter to where we are today with programs and documentation tools such as word processor, etc. The amazing amount of efficiency that was gained by the various, technology enhancements such as autocorrecting and the ability to copy and paste and reuse and format has all allowed us to be more efficient and produce higher quality documentation. Now, bringing it more into our world, I think we've all, heard about this, or maybe even some of us on the line have experienced, the transition in the CAD world from where we went to the, board drawings and doing everything by hand to the introduction of, computer-aided drafting and design tools, that allowed us to take that geometry and start to begin to do intelligent things and reusing of geometry and a further automation of that design process that allowed more flexibility with managing the changes and all that proper documentation. Now, for electrical, things for a lot of organizations stopped here. They were able to achieve status quo by, taking advantage of the standard, traditional generic CAD tools. So we're just talking lines and text, and, they continued to move forward. While our mechanical counterparts, they continued to progress their technology, and they went from, those 2D mechanical drawings into some beautiful and very impressive, 3D models where they can, run simulations and put, actual physical property information, do renderings, and a lot of cool stuff that, has greatly, impacted that industry. But what about electrical design? What have we seen that's pertinent to our industry that has allowed us, to kind of make, that leap forward in regards to, automation and design? So, I think, one thing we can talk about is, when you work in this field that that this job is hard and it's complex with its various interrelated documentation. It is common to see documentation packages in the dozens, if not hundreds, of sheets and pages. And using a tool originally designed for architects and mechanical engineers, can be very tedious and slow. So the reason, why automation has such an impact is because normally to manage, not only the design data, but also anything that's documentation that's required, is it required two tools, completely separate and disconnected. We would have our traditional CAD tools, which would contain, our design data, where then we would have, something such as Excel or some other external program that would house our metadata, such as bill of material, wire information, etc. And having to maintain that was, without question, tedious, slow, and error prone. Whereas the impact of even a minor change was extremely painful. And, I think that's what I want to focus on, is because I can truly talk to this as being in industry. Having been in this field so long, I did start in CAD. I worked in industry in a generic CAD, and I can understand that this process is exactly true. Having to maintain data in two separate places is painful, even so, more so when we talk in change. So what kind of impacts, could we see here? I mean, what if I told you that we could see somewhere of upwards of 300% of increase in speed, efficiency, and quality? Well, I understand that that's a very bold claim, but this is something, that I think that you are going to see firsthand through this webinar that we are going to prove next. Now, this is all achieved by, utilizing the powerful features found within SOLIDWORKS Electrical. So I wanted to take a moment to talk about the tool. It is a purpose-built schematic design tool that will allow us to design your systems quicker and more error-free. We can handle such things as single line and multi-line schematics, electrical, pneumatic, hydraulic, and P&ID documents, all the while populating these drawings with intelligent components, intelligent symbols, with wires and cables, again, that are fully intelligent, that contain manufacturer's information, and all the metadata that was typically maintained separately is all now housed inside of one environment in which all of our users and anybody that's collaborating within that space has access to. So not only can we automate, our schematics through purpose-built tools, but we can also further, increase that into our layouts, whether that's the generation of our standard 2D layouts. We can automate that process with intelligent libraries and intelligent symbols, etc. But then we can also integrate further downstream into our 3D mechanical. We have an electrical 3D offering into our SOLIDWORKS mechanical that allows us to fully realize our electrical enclosures and cabinets in 3D, and we can do wire routing and get a lot of additional powerful features off of that. But a lot of, where we're going to see the impact when we're talking about a traditional CAD tool and going over to a purpose-built intelligent tool is going to be on the reporting side, where SOLIDWORKS Electrical can automate all of our documentation, such as bill of materials, wire labels, wire from to reports, and even compounded on that, we have the ability to perform design audits throughout the life of our project. So we can run what are called design rule checks, and we can look for things like unconnected wires, duplicated component tags, missing manufacturer's part information, things that in a typical design workflow wouldn't be caught until further downstream design reviews. So when you compound all of these together, we have a really major impact into these environments. And in fact, we can see a reduction in documentation of 50% or more. We can nearly eliminate human error by utilizing intelligent libraries or populated with accurate data. We have a single source of truth that everybody is gaining access to and working off of. And then we can enable, collaboration between our departments with our electrical and mechanical integration. So, that's enough about, the software. Let's actually get into the challenge and why we're here, because I'm not here to just tell you these stats. I want you guys to see firsthand exactly the benefits that I just mentioned before. So with that, let's get into the challenge. All right, so I am going to start our schematic challenge. So on the left-hand side, you're going to see that I am working in SOLIDWORKS Electrical 2020. On the right-hand side, I am working in a traditional CAD tool. So as on the left-hand side, you're going to notice that I'm going through some project setup. What's nice about an intelligent purpose-built tool is, again, we're not dealing with disconnected drawings that are separate from our project data. all of our pertinent project data stored directly inside of the application. So this gives us the ability, once we create this project, to automatically populate this information into our title blocks and manage that data without having the need to manually populate title blocks. So let's take a look. We're about 40 seconds in here on the left-hand side with SOLIDWORKS Electrical. With having to speed this up to keep it up, you can see that in the CAD side, we've used some operations to place some wires on some layers, did some offsets to get these out. We've again continued to draw. Just a lot of manual work is being done. In fact, we're 3 minutes into it. We're getting about one circuit's done. You can see I'm manually changing some attributes now, coming in here with some trim commands. And all these tedious, time-consuming tasks that anybody who's watching this now, who does this day in and day out, can very much relate to. So this is not just a very generic-based CAD. We're working off of a palette over here that's got some saved blocks that got some attributes in it, and so and we're trying to utilize some of the commands that everybody that I feel would work with. When I was in industry, this is how I would do it inside of my CAD. So we'll continue to let you watch on that. Again, we're about 5.5 minutes into the standard CAD. Now coming back here on the left-hand side in SOLIDWORKS Electrical, we're about 1.5 minutes going on 2 minutes here. So we've created, some 3-phase wiring and also ported it down to 2 phases over here on the right. But these again are fully intelligent wires that are carrying metadata related to that wire, connection information. It understands the physical properties. But we've also built up some intelligent folder structure within our project and created drawings that are automatically populated with our project data. Here I'm coming into this distribution block. I'm adding some metadata such as the manufacturers and part numbers, so that now is contained within my database. And I'm working from similar a symbol palette over here to pull off intelligent symbols. We're going to notice as far as my tagging operations are going to come in automatically due to set up to some formulas and project configurations that are driving my SOLIDWORKS Electrical. So I'm about 2 minutes and 45 seconds in. I got some intelligent wires, placing some intelligent components and working on that circuit. So putting in my motor, checking back in on the CAD side. So we are about 9.5 minutes in. It looks like we got one circuit in. Near complete. We're putting in some wire numbers. Looks like we probably put in some text, did some copy and paste operations to get those in place, and just locating those appropriately and going in and editing. Now, again, as somebody who's done this in industry, it's very time-consuming operation because we're manually going over to the left, understanding what rung we're on and performing whatever design standard is set, with having to remember our suffix, where we just left off, things of that nature. So here, still in CAD, it looks like I just did a copy and paste command of the circuit above, which was really a nice way to reuse a lot of that data, eliminate some of the trimming I had to do. But with that, I'm still having to come in here and manually edit each wire number, each component to reflect the new location. So about 12.5 minutes in on the standard CAD. So checking back in with SOLIDWORKS Electrical, I'm going on 4 minutes here. Looks like I'm accessing the manufacturer's part library again, just placing let's see, I got a motor starter there. And so we're still working on some components. So I'm coming back in here on my first motor circuit here, and it looks like I'm going to place some my motor starter contacts over here with an overload. So I'm going to place these, and what's nice is we work in this software. Over here on the right, I have all this data that I've already entered. So here I'm going to relate this motor starter to the parent symbol that I've already defined all that metadata. Notice that the terminal numbers per the contacts are automatically paired based off that manufacturer's data. So I really quickly, without having to manipulate the child symbol in these contacts, it was all fed off of that parent symbol, which was fed off of the manufacturer's data. So just placing a terminal here, and which again is nice about these terminals, is a fully intelligent system. It's going to track these so that I can run other benefits such as terminal reports, etc. Okay, so on the CAD side, about 16 minutes in, it looks like I've copied and pasted another circuit down there and manually changed all that modifications, and I'm building a transformer in. Checking in with SOLIDWORKS Electrical. Looks like I also did a copy and paste of the circuit above, but if you did notice and you were paying attention, it automatically updated all of those components to reflect their new location. And so everything is unique and nothing's duplicated. What is happening here is that this particular circuit has a different size motor, so I went back into the manufacturer's library, grabbed the appropriate size motor, updated any properties, and with the impact of that, I'm also going to change the size of, well, here in a moment, on this particular circuit, again, that I'm copying and pasting. Everything's unique. Again, a different motor size here. So let me go select that and get that put on. So I'm going to do a couple part number changes within these circuits. But again, pay attention, we're about 6 minutes in. I got 3 unique circuits that I've put in, fully intelligent, containing metadata. Coming back over here to CAD, we're going on 20 minutes, still building out a circuit. So I had a step down in my transformer. I'm putting in a receptacle. So this is going to be, manage some cabinet lights and some door switches in here. So I got a limit switch and, just doing standard CAD operations, copy and paste, trimming, editing of text and just manipulating that data manually, as we all know who do this day in and day out. Again, I don't have to say this enough, but it's very tedious. Over here in SOLIDWORKS Electrical, I'm intelligently connecting some wires with what are referred to as source and destination arrows. So it's going to carry that intelligence, that connection information from one side to the other. Just removing some spare wires here, but I got that, automatically putting that data in. So to kind of get caught up, we're about 7 minutes on the SOLIDWORKS Electrical. We're about going on 23 minutes and still manually building out these little circuit that we're using for this competition and this challenge. So here we go again on the electrical. We're going to build out, that same, transformer circuit that we're going to do. So I'm just placing this from a library, adding manufacturer's data. Here again, I'm coming in and placing intelligent wires based off of a library that I have built into my project. So I'm just grabbing the appropriate grouping. I'm going to filter this down to the appropriate phase as it connects here to this transformer. In the CAD side, manually manipulating wire numbers. Again, this can be tedious based off of me making sure with my eyes that I'm going to the appropriate line and rung numbers and that I'm following the appropriate the appropriate suffix or whatever wire numbering scheme I'm following. And as I'm designing here, nothing's really, indicating that there would be any type of errors as I design, whether I had something unconnected or not. It's just kind of up to me visually to see that information. So, I've completed that circuit about 30 minutes in here, just over 25 minutes. I've completed, the design in CAD, and there was a lot of information still left out on that. If you noticed, is some terminal numbers not populating and things like that. That's just, we'd have to continue to work in there to populate it. But we're about 27 minutes in here. And, now I'm starting to switch over to Excel and I'm manually building my bill of materials completely separate from what I did in CAD. That, is not driving this list at all. So I'm having to either look at my schematic and just go, okay, I had this fuse, this enclosure, this, motor, and I'm manually working off of that and typing that in. Again, this is error prone because, what if I mistype something? Now I'm trying to do my best to take advantage of reusing information as I populate this. But again, I'm about 30 minutes in, and still doing a lot of manual work inside of Excel that is completely disassociated from my electrical schematics. Now we're going on over here in SOLIDWORKS Electrical. I'm going on a little under 9 minutes, still working on that circuit. Now it seems like a lot because we're still building something, but we're 10 minutes in. Our circuit and our drawing is nearly almost done. But what's great about that is when the schematic is done, the generation of all those deliverables, that's what we're seeing having to happen over here on the generic CAD side, is automated. So again, you're continuing to work out of an intelligent library to locate and work with these symbols. I've done a number of different ways of accessing this library, whether I was using the palette on the right-hand side, which is highly customizable to fit your organization's needs, or going into my overall library that contains all the symbols, that is found within my environment. So this is great. Again, fully shared by anybody who's working in this tool. It's a fully collaborative environment. All electrical users can collaborate on the same project as well when mechanical works in as well. So you can kind of see how, I've been in and out of this manufacturer's part library, but these terminal numbers are being driven and a lot of that metadata, again, all by that library. Simple copy and paste commands here, automated 100% because of the built-in configurations within the project. So again, this is really helpful. You can, just rest in peace that the software is taking care, and I don't have to double check myself to make sure I have these component tags aligned with the rung numbers and all that manual work. So checking in on the CAD, we're about 35 minutes in and still building out. It looks like, yeah, we're still building out that bill of material. Over here, you can kind of see there was some typos over here. This is the kind of stuff we have to deal with in industry. And that's what I wanted to point out, is I wanted to keep this as real as possible. People make mistakes, so that's accounted for here. Even over here on the SolidWorks, as I did this, I didn't want to come in this as, like I've rehearsed this multiple times. I came in this as I started this project. So I'm going to fumble around and I'm going to put things in and having to look in different menus, or such as this, as I'm removing some wires I didn't need. So all this is accounted for as to trying to make this challenge as realistic as possible. We're not fudging anything. In fact, we can make these data sets available to anybody so they can time this same data within their environment. So, we're still building out that circuit. I'm intelligently changing some wires over here in SolidWorks Electrical to go onto the appropriate wire type, to keep that fully accurate. Over here, in CAD, we're about 38 minutes in. It looks like now I am manually building out a wire to and from, which anybody who's had to do this is extremely tedious because, again, we're relying on the schematic. So we're going back and forth between these two, flipping sheet, coming back over here to Excel, typing this in and hoping we didn't read something wrong or type something in wrong. So I'll let that build out. Over here on SolidWorks, I ran an error report that told me I forgot to run my wire numbers. So I came back in here and I just quickly hit a click of a button. All my wire numbers generated per my standard. If I look back in that design rule check, I can see all my errors are removed. So I'm ready to move forward with documentation. With the click on the reports button, I have access to a lot of system reports that I can run. Here we're going to work with bill of materials, so I can, live see my bill of material informations. Quickly hit generate drawings. I'm going to select the reports that I want. So I'm going to do a wire to and from a bill of materials. Go ahead and click that in. So I'm about 12 minutes, going on 13 minutes in SolidWorks Electrical. I got a fully intelligent schematic. I am generating my bill of materials. So that's going to tell me that that is accurate. I'm about 40 minutes in on CAD and still building out that wire from too. So one thing I'm going to do over here in SolidWorks Electrical, we can see I have a 15, 10, and 25 horsepower motors in here. I'm going to initiate a design change here in a moment where I'm actually going to update one of those motors to be a 25 horsepower. So I should have two 25 horsepower motors. And I'm also going to update, some of the MCPs on that. So I'm going to come in here. This is a 15 horsepower motor. I'm coming back into the library. I'm performing a design change. So I'm going to remove the current part number that's associated with that, come back into my library, and I'm going to select the 25 horsepower motor. Once I get that filtered appropriately, I'm going to throw that guy on there. And I'm going to continue to, update this circuit as to reflect the impact of that change. So I did I did the motor, and now I'm going to go do the circuit breaker. Checking back in with CAD, we're 45 minutes in and still manually building out this wire from and to. Now again, we're fully disconnected in this scenario over here. So if this design change happens, which I will initiate it in CAD here in a moment, it's a lot more painful because I got to, manually do this. Back over here in SolidWorks Electrical, I'm going to rerun that bill of materials report to capture any design changes that might occur, which in our case we know is going to be the motor changes. So that's going to update. Over here in CAD, I'm going to go ahead and import these bill of material and wire from and to lists manually into my drawings and update my layout views. Over here in SolidWorks Electrical, we can see I have a 10 horsepower, 25 horsepower, and 25 horsepower motor, as well as my circuit breaker. So my documentation is fully updated. My schematics are accurate. Going about 15 minutes in. Here I'm going to quickly export to PDF. Over here in CAD, I am manually updating that same change, changing the horsepower of the motor and circuit breakers, removing those tables, manually coming back in, pointing to the Excel sheet, and putting those tables in. So once I get that updated for both the wire from to and the BOM, I'm going to go ahead and export those out. And so I'm generating a PDF, again, fully intelligent PDF coming off of the SOLIDWORKS Electrical with hyperlinks that allow us to connect wires. And this is a single, multi-line PDF over here in CAD. I just generated that out, how to combine them. But you can see, about 15 minutes into that, 15 and a half minutes, we completed our fully documented intelligent project. All right, so we've made it to the finish line, and I think it's safe to see who the actual winner is in this particular challenge when we look at SOLIDWORKS Electrical compared to traditional generic CAD tools. It is easy to see that SOLIDWORKS Electrical is the clear winner side-by-side challenge. So what are those exact results are we talking about? I think we could see within this particular example that we ran here, and I am personally the one who did this challenge, is that it took me roughly about 50 minutes to do all of what I did in CAD. So that was build out the schematics, and so this was all done off of a template that had my layers built in, and my appropriate symbol library inside of generic CAD was set up. So this was me just coming in and putting the lines in on the appropriate layers and then drawing it out with manual text and trim commands, and then having to generate the BOM and wire from to manually in Excel, and then import that, make that change, re-import, and then publish PDF. So I was seeing average of 50 minutes. Again, in SOLIDWORKS Electrical, I saw that done in an average of 16 minutes. Now, all the while, if you rewatch this webinar, pay attention to the videos. I am not, going as at this like this was pre-rehearsed fully, where every movement was programmed. This was very realistic in the regards of how I would approach it in real life. So, with that, I mean, wow, what dramatic results. We're talking about 3 times faster. And just think about what that could mean for your organization. So in summary, I think we all can say we saw dramatic results. Now, this was a small example in the scope of some of the scale of the projects that our customers would deal with. So we can even handle larger projects even faster, because when you start thinking about the scale of that and managing that data separately in generic CAD versus this intelligent SQL database driven environment that we offer inside of electrical that is extremely reliable and powerful, we can handle those even faster. And when we can do more engineering change orders, it means massive increases in speed, because as reflected in this challenge, I mean, that is a big time hit. Having to manually manage data separately and having the impact of that change and all of the manual associations, whether that's inside of the schematics or separate into the Excel and other programs, it takes a lot to initiate change, where our application can manage that change for you. And all of this allows us to have fewer errors, and who doesn't want to do that? Because it allows us to spend less time checking, more time being engineers, and less time being glorified document pushers. So removing the need for tedious design reviews. And that comes back as, how do you want to spend your time? And I think we would all agree, we would all like to spend that, as I just mentioned, being engineers. And so, with ours, we have the proven technology as we saw through this, but we also have the support through a strong value-added reseller network, through strong user base and support groups and forums. You can really, come together and have a very powerful design tool at your disposal. So in closing, if you liked what you saw here today, if you are interested in challenging the status quo at your organization and taking your electrical designs to the next step, and seeing results of upwards of 300% efficiency gains, then feel free to reach out to myself. My email address is listed here, or visit the link that I mentioned above, solidworks.com, category electrical design, and we have a lot of valuable information there. So thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed this webinar, you found it valuable, and you'll see, as I do, that there's clearly benefits to be gained by switching to SOLIDWORKS Electrical over traditional generic CAD. Thank you for your time, and have a great day.